Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Rogue Agent Answers. My name is the Rogue Agent. Some people call me David Lewis, and every week I answer one of the many life insurance related questions that I've received from clients, from email subscribers on the daily email list, questions floated to me from across the interwebs, in the comments sections, which I know you're not supposed to read, or just interactions that I've had with people in real life over the past 20 years, which is a long time. And some of these questions I just scribbled down on scrap pieces of paper. Some of these are stuff I've written down on my phone. Some of it is on Post-it notes scattered all over the office. And every week I answer one of those questions. So if you'd like to ask your question, drop them in the comments section or join my email list for more life insurance tips and advice at monogenics.com. MONEGENIX.com. And now for this week's question. What is the overloan protection rider? Why is it on my policy? And how much is this costing me? Okay, so last part first. It's not costing you anything to have this rider on your policy. And the overloan protection rider is basically a special modification to your whole life policy. Or universal life policy. It's actually more common on a UL policy, but there are some carriers that have added it to their whole life product. Basically, it protects it from lapsing, protects the policy from lapsing in your old age due to policy loans. So in simple terms, the rider will be triggered if you borrow more than 99% of your cash surrender value. The company will send you a letter and you have 31 days to respond, telling them that you want to use the rider. Once you confirm it, the company will convert your policy to a reduced, paid-up life insurance policy. Now, when the company converts your policy, they use whatever is left of your cash value and use that to calculate how much guaranteed death benefit can be purchased and maintained for the rest of your life. Then they convert your existing policy to that new death benefit amount. End of story. No more premiums can be paid on the policy, and it also erases all policy debt and loan interest. Now, there are some restrictions on the rider, like a minimum attained age. This will be specified in your policy usually. What I've seen is that most carriers want to see you at least 70 or 75 years old and a minimum number of years that the policy must be enforced. Usually that's going to be 15 years. So it's not one of these things that's designed to be used like when you first start the policy and you're like in your 20s or 30s or whatever, 40s, and then, early on and you overloan the policy and then you convert it. That's not how this is supposed to be used. It's designed specifically for old age use if people are borrowing against their policy. 'Cause one of the things that happens is that life insurance, whole life especially, has been sold, and UL, indexed universal life especially, has been sold as a way to supplement retirement income. And the way you do it is you pay a whole bunch of premiums into the policy, build up lots of cash values, then you start borrowing against the policy for income. And the using loans, so policy loans, use those for income. Well, you could theoretically get into a position where the policy then is not generating enough interest credits. And because it's not generating enough interest credits, the policy cash values start to decrease pretty rapidly. And as it does that, it puts the policy in danger of lapsing. And this is what this rider is designed to address, is this problem. So to keep the policy in force, to prevent it from lapsing due to loan activity. And by preventing it from lapsing, it theoretically avoids triggering income tax on any net gains in your policy, which the IRS calls phantom income. I say theoretically because this has never actually been tested in court or by the IRS. But it is based on current tax law, so it should work as advertised. It's not guaranteed to work, obviously, because again, it's never been challenged in court before. But the way that it's intended to work is based on existing U.S. tax law. So if you lapse a life insurance policy and there is gain in the policy, meaning there is more cash surrender value in the policy than premiums that you've paid in. In other words, if you pay $100,000 in premiums over the life of the policy and you have $200,000 in cash value, you have $100,000 net gain in the policy. So if the policy lapses, even by policy loans, you borrow out all $200,000, the policy lapses, once the policy lapses, you have theoretically a gain of $100,000. You get back your $100,000 in premiums. That's considered your basis. $100,000 in gain. That's the amount that would be taxed, right? So you don't want your policy to lapse. So an alternative to lapsing would be to have the policy do reduced paid up. So it takes whatever's left. Say you have like 10 or 15,000 in cash surrender value left. The company will look at that cash surrender value, if it was like 10,000, and they'll say, wow, this could buy a permanent paid up policy. If we're going to convert this, in other words, to like a single premium whole life policy, how much death benefit would $10,000 buy? Maybe it only buys 15,000, maybe it buys 25,000, maybe whatever it buys. And then they'll just take the policy, convert it to that lower dollar amount, and then you have no more premiums because the policy is considered paid in full. And that's it. Anyway, I hope that answers the question and it helps somebody out there if they were confused about how those riders work. Thank you for submitting the question, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, that's it for this week's question. If you'd like to add your question to the list, just drop them in the comment section or send me an email. And if you want more life insurance tips and advice, just head on over to monogenics.com, MONEGENIX.com, and sign up for my daily email list.